everyone, I'm Mel from Sewing with Mel, and this video is part 2 of our bucket hat sew along. Check out part 1. It talks about the pattern and printing and things you might need to know before you get started. So I already have all my pattern pieces cut out because I've made several hats already. We are making 2 hats, okay? So this fabric will be the hat with the ponytail opening, okay? And that is not on the pattern. This is a hack that I did. So in order to do the ponytail thing, you have to watch the video because that's where I will explain it, okay? So I am going to use on this hat, I'm going to use woven fuse too. So I have also cut out the other hat already, and it already has interfacing on it. And this hat is not going to have a ponytail opening, and I have interfaced it, lining and the main fabric and the outside with original woven fuse. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 different ones there. I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces out of these fabrics and get them interfaced. I wanted to point something else out before I get started cutting these out. Here are your grain line arrows, okay? The grain line of your fabric is running this way, and so are the arrows, okay? You need to pay attention to that. And when you interface them, we are also using a woven interfacing. So that also has a grain line. You want to follow the grain line with your woven interfacing and your fabric. Okay, I'm going to cut these out and be right back. I've got everything cut out and interfaced. So remember, 1 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these, 2 brims, okay, for each side. So here's your main fabric and the lining. All right, so I used, once again, woven fuse 2 on this one, okay? And I used my Cricut auto press, and I had it set for 320 for the temperature, and I pressed for 12 seconds. And then I let them sit for a little bit so that they can cool. And they're fused on there pretty nicely. So the first thing we're going to work on is the brim. So let's move to that. So for both pieces, we're going to put them together like so. Okay, and what I want you to do, all the seams in this are 1/2 inch, okay? So let's pin this together. And don't forget, match your fabric, not your interfacing. If your interfacing is sticking over a little bit, don't match the interfacing, match the fabric. The more precise you are, the better your projects will turn out. So there's one, get the other one, and it doesn't matter which side. The pieces are exactly the same. If you fold them, they're exactly the same. So just do one end. And you can use clips if you want to. I just prefer pins. I like clips, but I like pins too, not when they poke me. All right, so now I'm going to go over to the machine and I'm going to sew my first seams on both pieces at 1/2 inch. The next step is to take both pieces and open up that seam allowance, just like so, and press it. Got to get my pressing aid here. And what does that do? The wood absorbs the heat and it makes the seam nice and flat. And we'll do that to both pieces. Okay, there's one. just like so. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Let me come up here, make sure we're in the camera. The next step that I'm doing involves the ponytail opening. All right, so if you are not doing the ponytail opening, you can skip this step, okay? So what you need to do is from your center seam, and we're gonna do this on both sides, I want you to measure 1 inch and 1/8 from your center seam line. So here's 1 inch and 1/8, and make a mark, okay? Do the same thing on the other side. Can't quite tell if I'm on my line or not. And I am right there, okay? So we're gonna do it 1 inch and 1/8, right there. Okay, so let's do that on both. And then what I would like you to do is sew on your 1/2 inch seam line from here to there, okay? Actually, you can go a little bit further, and I'll show you why we're doing this here in a minute. All right, so I've already done it to this one, and I'm gonna do it to this one. What I want you to do is from the marks that you made, clip up to the stitching line. And you want them to be the same on both pieces, okay? Because then they're gonna go back to back. So go all the way up to the line and then clip not quite to the line. Let's see if I can do it. Sometimes my scissors are not sharp enough. Like so. Then you're gonna fold this up on the stitching line that you made and press it. Now I like to use a little bit of Elmer's glue to glue it down. Okay, so just stick a little glue under there if you want to, and then iron it down, and then those will stay down and they won't, the pieces will go together better when you go to sew the brim together. I'm gonna go ahead and do that to this side. Now that we've done that step, take both pieces, lay one over the other, right sides together, and make sure that they match, okay? Just like that. The next step will be to take the brim pieces and sew these together at 1/2 inch. Okay, so you'll have a whole brim piece. Let's go ahead and get that done. The back brim seams have both been sewed together and pressed. Now, put them right side together. Easier said than done, right? Make sure these are in the same place. Don't do that. Do that. Match up your seams and match these up. Make sure those seams match. Pin it together all the way around the outside edge here. And then we're going to sew that all the way around at 1/2 inch. And I like to make sure both sides, not just that side, but that side matches up too. See, they're not. Scoot them over. Remember, the more precise you are, the better your project's going to turn out. That's a fact. Okay, so we are not sewing the inside, just the outside. I'm going to finish pinning that and go ahead and sew that. All right, I've sewed the ponytail brim. This is the non-ponytail brim, okay? And I have a guideline on my machine. It's a light, you can't see it in the camera, but that's how I make sure that I keep that 1/2 inch seam all the way around. Don't sew over your pins, Mel. How many times have I done that? Oh, a lot. And I don't need to back up because I'm gonna run over it again. So we're just gonna sew all the way around. I ran over a pin. Don't do it. And if you do it, don't tell anybody. I've got both pieces sewn. Ponytail, non-ponytail. All right, so now we are going to use our pinking shears. We make sure we're in the camera, and we are. It's a bummer when you film a whole thing and you realize that you're not even in there where the camera is. Okay, so I'm going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to cut all around the outside. Now, if you don't have pinking shears, don't worry about it. You don't need to do it. I prefer to do it. If you do not use these, I would trim this down to like 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to clip all the way around. Okay, this you don't have to clip. Now, these aren't very sharp. They work really good on this part, but when I hit a seam, I have to kind of force it a little bit. This makes you able to have a really nice rounded edge on your brim. This is where I get stuck. These aren't the best. Ugh. I have to be careful or it'll go clip. All right. Don't clip, don't cut through your stitching. All the way around. Here's another hard spot. My hands just aren't strong enough. Or the scissors aren't sharp enough. That could be it too. There. So we're going to do that to both of them. You're not. You're going to do one or the other. So I'll do the same thing to this one. Then we're going to turn it the other way and fold these out. So I'll go ahead, cut the other one, and we'll move on to the next step. I've got my edge pinned. That'll keep it nice and crisp as we sew. And we're going to go ahead and top stitch all the way around the outside. Okay? Don't run over your pins. This gets done whether you're making a ponytail opening or not. I top stitched about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to overlap a little bit here. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is, to be safe, I'm going to pin this. We're going to go ahead and sew our lines all around our brim. And I just want to make sure that my fabric stays together as I sew. Sometimes when you sew lines next to each other over and over and over, sometimes your fabric moves. And we don't want the fabric to move, because when it moves, then you got wrinkles in between all of your lines, right? We don't want that to happen. So I am going to pin my edges, inside edges together, just to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, so now You can sew however close or however far away you want to. There's no rule. But what I like to do is just use the edge of my foot. It's so much easier to keep it straight that way. Just like this. And I'm just gonna go around and around and around. I'm keeping my eye over here. Don't look up here, you'll get off track. Look over here. And then just keep going. I can probably do 1, 2, 3, I think 4 more I can do. You don't want to go all the way up here, okay? And I'll tell you why when we get there, but I'm going to do a few more, and then I'm going to do the other hat, and we'll go on to the next step. I've got all my lines sewed across here, and I stop about, inch and a quarter away from the edge. What I want to do next is I'm going to sew around the inside, and I'm only going to sew at about 3/8 of an inch and start at the back. And what this is a guideline for clipping, okay? This is going to keep us, it's going to allow us to clip, but it's going to keep us from clipping too far. So that's really all this is. So we're going to sew around, and the width of my foot right there is about 3/8. So that works well to just line it up that way. Get all the way around here. Just a guideline. I've already clipped this one, as you can see. So just clip it right to that line. Let's do the one without the ponytail holder, or opening. So just clip to it all the way around. Oops, didn't get quite through all of it. That's okay if you clip through it. It's not gonna, what in the heck? My scissors aren't working right. There. All the way around. This is going to help you when you go to sew this brim onto the hat band, which is the part that goes around your head. And I'll just continue this, and we'll go on. Here's this one all sewn and clipped. See how it spreads apart better? And this one, this is the one with the ponytail opening. Okay, let's set those aside and move on to the rest of the hat. Now we're going to work on the band. So the ponytail hole part for the band is a lot different than the part if you're not doing a ponytail hole, okay? So what you need to do is take your band pieces, and it doesn't matter, they're the same piece, so it's not like one's different than the other. They're both the same, even if you fold them in half. And you're going to take them, and if you're not making a ponytail hole, you're going to sew here and here, okay, at 1/2 inch. Now, you've got to be able to birth this hat when it's done. I've already done the one without the ponytail opening. One side is the back. Excuse me, one side is the back. One side is the front. Now, actually, the back or the front doesn't really matter on the one without the hole, okay? But choose one or the other. And stitch. Now you can see that I've really stitched a whole bunch right there and right there. That's because this is where I'm going to birth this hat. So I'm going to go ahead and press this open like this, and I'm not going to release those stitches yet. We're just going to leave it. So go ahead, stitch it, do a whole bunch of stitching right there so it's really strong, because you're going to have to pull the whole hat through this opening. And if this isn't really strong, these stitches will rip out. Okay, so go back and forth over that a couple of times. Okay, let's go back to the other ponytail opening. Put them together, but don't do both sides. Just do one side. Okay, we're just going to stitch right there. And this one, stitch all the way across. This one, we're not worrying about the opening right now. So let's go ahead and stitch both of these together, the front, the inside, and the outside, exactly the same. 1/2 inch, line it up. Sometimes I forget which button I'm supposed to be pushing. Okay, line these up. Same thing. Whoa! I'm kind of sewing sideways. I'm sitting sideways in my chair so I don't get my arm in the way. All right. Now you're going to press both of these open. Okay? Remember how we went around at 3/8 on the brim and then clipped it? We're going to do the same thing with these and these. I had already sewed the other side shut, but that's okay. I can still do it. We're going to sew all of these across the top where the crown goes at 3/8, and then we're going to clip them. So I've got 4 to do because I'm making 2 hats. 3/8 clip. Let's clip this last piece. I am clipping about every 1/2 inch or so. I'm trying to get it so you can see it. Don't skimp and clip at every inch, or your crown won't go on quite as nice. And you can clip right up to it. If you clip through it, don't worry. Just don't clip all the way in 1/2 inch, because that's where your seam is going to be. And this one should have been sewn with pink and it got sewn with purple, but it doesn't matter at this point because all that is hidden in the seam allowance anyway. I'll make sure I get my thread switched out next time. And that's what happens when you make 2 things at once. Okay, almost all the way around. Okay. That way, when you go to put your crown on, no, this is the wrong one, but that's okay. It's going to be easy for it to spread. See what I'm saying? It'll spread and it'll go around, and you'll have a much nicer circle stitching than you would have if you just tried to make it fit, okay? All right. So for now, I'm going to put the one without the ponytail hole aside, and we're going to look at making the ponytail opening. This part's a little bit complicated, but I didn't say this was easy, did I? But it turns out really good. So from your bottom edge, I want you to measure up 2.5 inches. Where's my half mark? There it is. And make yourself a mark at 2.5, just like that. Now, from that mark, you're going to measure 1 inch down and 1 inch over. Let me scoot it over so we can do it on this side. So put it there, inch down. Actually, that was wrong. How about this? Inch down, down, over, right there. Okay, do it on the other side. Inch down. I can't see where my thing is. Hold on. There we go. Inch down, inch over. Okay, so now we have a mark here, here, and here. Go to the bottom, and I want you to go from the center line 1 inch and 1/8 over. So I'm going to put my 1/8 right on that line, 1 inch and 1/8 to my seam line. Put it about right there. Do the same thing on this side. And I think I'm centered. 1 inch and 1/8 right there. Okay, now use your great drawing skills. Make the arc. And my pen says it doesn't want to work quite right. Okay, just like that. And then draw from there to there. I can't see on that side. Here, let's do it like this. Just like that. Now, flip this one this way. Put this one on top of it. And we're going to pin them together. And you're going to sew on that line. Okay? All right, pin together. We're going to sew right on that line we drew. Fast. Now, let me take the pins out. I'm going to use my pinking shears and I'm going to cut all of that out. I'm going to cut as close to that line as I can without cutting through it. Oops, wrong scissors. About like that. Now remember, if you don't have pinking shears, just cut it out and clip it. Okay, just like that. The next step is to go ahead and turn it. Just like that. Turn it. Pin it so that you can keep it flat. You want to press it. Okay, so I'm going to use my pins and make this all nice and press it flat. Do not top stitch it yet. I know it's tempting to go ahead and top stitch that. Don't do it yet. After you're all pressed, it'll look like that. Okay, so now you're going to take the main part, take your two edges, and go ahead, pin them together. And sew it with your 1/2 inch seam allowance. This particular seam, just sew it like you normally would, okay? However, now take it like this. You're going to sew these together also, but remember how we did it on the other one? Let's see, on the one with no ponytail opening. Where's my lining? Remember how I sewed it a whole bunch on both ends? We're going to do the same thing here. So pin it together and sew it, sew a regular seam, but really, really reinforce from about, wherever, from a 1/2 inch up, reinforce that really, really good, because we're going to be pulling a stiff hat through that opening. Okay, so lining, reinforce, this one, normal, and it will end up looking like that. I know it's weird. There's a method to my madness. Let's make some markings. Now, you can do this before you sew everything together, but I don't, and I'll tell you why. I want to find the center. I want to match these two centers together and make a mark over here. If I went ahead and made the mark, what if my seams weren't quite right? Then that wouldn't actually be a center mark, would it? All right, so what we're going to do, match them up, match this seam to this seam. I need to press that open, don't I? Is it right there? It is. All right, come over here, make a mark. Now I have the center of that. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing this way. I need to press that. Open it up. Might be easier to see when I do it on the other hat. Center. Okay, so do it on this side and this side. Let's do this one since it is flat. Match up your seams. Make sure they match. You want to get that right in the center. Right there. And the other side. Bring it over. Almost right there, huh? Okay, now I have marks. I will do all of those here in a little bit. You're also going to take your crown pieces. You need to do this with both pieces. I have 4 to do it on, 2 hats. Flip it over. On your pattern, mark, 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 mark. Put them on there. And it's kind of hard to see from way over here. I'll just do it like I normally do it. Bring it up, mark, put it back down, bring it over, and other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this matches this. There, there, there. This goes on the other side. Okay, let me mark all the rest of them. Okay, let's attach a crown. So the instructions are the same no matter which hat we're doing for the crown. Okay, so the one without the ponytail opening, you'll have two pieces. The one with the ponytail opening, you've got two pieces, but they're stuck together. So you'll put a crown here and a crown here. Let's make it easy and let's do this one. So if you have a front and a back, make sure you're putting it the right way that you would like it. We're going to line up the seams, the front and the back seam, here and here. And then the side where we made the marks, there and there. So let me show you. Let me line it up. Am I on? I am. Okay. Pin it. Okay. Then go over here. Line it up. Did I get it? Almost. Not quite. That looks better. Let's see if I got it. Usually I make my lines longer. I guess I'm being lazy. Nope, looks good. Come over here. See the mark? Line it up. Actually, I think what I'll do, since I don't want to stick my head in the middle of this, is what I don't want to do. I'm going to put a pin right there. Got it? There. Now I'll just scoot it up. Okay, and one more here. Two. Yep, got it. All right. Now this would be the difficult part if we hadn't done a bunch of clipping, but we did. So by clipping it, it allows us to spread this out, pin, put it on there, spread it out so that it matches your edge, pin it, pin, and pin. See how nice that went on? Do that all the way around, okay? And you're going to do it for both parts and both parts of this one. I'll meet you over at the sewing machine and we'll sew the crowns on. Okay, let's sew on a crown. Now I will say, the bigger your hat is, the easier this probably is. This is what I get for having a teenage size head. Okay, flatten it out, crown side down, brim, or not brim, band side up where you can see it, and 1/2 inch. So we are now sewing, remember when we sewed right there, that was 3/8? That's all going to be hidden, and we clipped to it. Sew 1/8 inch that way of this seam. Okay, let me get up to my line. I can see it. You guys probably think I'm crazy. It's there. Okay, carefully, 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 or you will poke yourself. I've tried clips for this kind of thing and it just doesn't work well. Okay, now, normally I tell you don't sew over pins. I'm going to sew over my pins, but I'm going to be really, really super careful. On a curve, when you pull the pin out, it automatically, poop, it pops right back out. So in order to be as precise as we can be, I am going to carefully sew over the pins. I'm going to take them out as I go so I'm not poking myself on the back end. Make sure that your, almost hit a pin, that this part isn't folded and you're not sewing on the fold. If you move it, you can actually sew it without sewing over an edge and creating a crease, okay? Now, I top stitched my other hats, and I'm going to top stitch this one too. You could, the way we're doing it, you could top stitch the crown on the lining. I'm not going to. It looks beautiful on the main fabric on the outside of your hat, but if you're not going to turn your hat the other way, you'll never see it. Plus, it's not very fun, let me just tell you that. I've been poked more than once today. And I'm going to attempt to top stitch this on camera. However, you'll see when I get it all done and go to top stitch it, it's going to be really difficult for you guys to see what I'm doing because the fabric's in the way. It kind of cups up and it covers up what I'm doing. So I'll give you the gist of it, and then I'll probably turn off the camera so you don't have to sit through painful top stitching that you can't see any of anyway. Be careful of those pins. Almost all the way around. Straighten it out if it wants to bunch up. Don't sew over the bunched up parts. There. Okay, so now if you were going to top stitch this, which I'm going to, see what I mean? You need to, when you top stitch it, this needs to be down like that. Don't top stitch it so that this is up. This needs to go down, so you're top stitching this down. So it's this way, and I press it flat. Let's see how flat I can get it. I just don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not. You want to top stitch not on the crown. You want to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the seam between the crown and the band. So your top stitching should be on your band. Okay, so I'm going to, let's give it a try here. There's a lot of stopping and starting. I tend to grab it like this and make sure that your seam allowance is going that way. Kind of press it out, spread it out. Just don't know if you can see it, but we're going to try it anyway. Don't sew your fingers, any of you. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I'm not really going by any guide or anything. I'm just guessing. Can you see what I'm doing? Probably not. That's all right, we're almost done. Almost. Now, I will say it's more difficult with the stiffer interfacing. Okay, so if you're using Woven Fuse too, probably find that it's a little more difficult to move this around. All right. Let's go back to the cutting table and check it out. All right, there's the one we just did. And as you can see, it is top stitched. Now, I like to take my pinking shears and cut all that off. It lays better. See how this is all sticking out because it's curved? Cut that off because what ends up happening is it pushes out the top of your hat. So let's cut that off. Be careful not to cut your band, okay? Don't cut the band. In fact, turn it this way. And just start trimming, but keep the rest of it out of the way. I think I'm gonna go shopping for some sharper, nicer pinking shears. All right, now it looks like that. So when you turn it this way, look how nice that came out. Nice and round. Okay. I will do that on the rest of them. However, I want to show you. So here's the other one. I'm not going to top stitch it. You can if you want to, because you're going to open this right here. So you could top stitch it, but if you do, you're making your hole just a little tinier. Okay? I'm not going to do mine. So this goes to the hat without the opening. Here's the hat with the opening, and I need to trim the inside of this one yet, but so what you end up getting with this hat is this, okay? And that's correct. That's how it should look. For the next step, we are going to put on the brim, and we're going to start with the one without the ponytail hole, okay? Because it's easier. Let's get that one out of the way. Okay, let's put on a brim. I'm going to start with the lining first, and that means I need to turn this way. Now, you have a front and a back, okay? The back is where you did your whole bunch of reinforcement stitching, okay? That's the back. On your brim, you also have a back, and that would be where you stopped and started your lines, okay? So we don't have to see the back stitching and stuff. Looks much nicer on the front. This is the back, and this is the back, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, okay, that's the back. So what you want to do is this needs to be to this side. The sides need to match the fabrics, okay? Match up your back to your front, or your back to your back, I mean, like that. And you're going to start pinning it all the way around. This actually goes like that. Get what I'm saying? So you're going to match your sides. We don't have a mark there. We kind of don't need one, I don't think, if I remember right. It just kind of falls together. And we're going to put this with this. That's the front, front to front. Pin it. And what you're going to do is, remember how we put the crown on and we spread it and it fit? You're going to do the exact same thing here. So let me do a side and let's see how it works. If you need to, you can find, you know, mark your sides and then find the sides of the brim and mark that too. But I kind of think that it will fall right together. You just have to remember, you got to spread it a little. We'll see where we hit when I get over there. Look at that. Fit perfect. Okay. So continue all the way around, and then you're going to sew that. Okay? All pinned. And be careful again, don't scratch your machine, don't scratch your arm, don't poke your fingers. Start at the back. And once again, you sewed all this before, right here, this line that you clipped to at 3/8. Your seam is 1/2 inch, so you're gonna sew 1/8 inch that way of this seam, okay? Watch for pins. See how it wants to move a little bit? That's all right. Might have to stretch it a little bit, move it around so you get what you need to get it where you need it to be without sewing wrinkles into it. Poke. Ouch. I tell you not to do it, then I do it. If you time it just right, you can see where you can just jump right over them. Guess I didn't time it right, did I? And there is the beginning of my sewing, and I'm just going to sew over it. All right. Let's take all the pins out and look at it at the cutting table. All right, pins gone. Now, let's put the outside part on, okay? So how are we going to do that? Well, this needs to match up to this. Turn this inside out, like that. If you've got a side that you want to be the front, or if it doesn't matter, just pick one. Let's see, where's the back of mine? Right here. Let's make this be the back. What we're going to do is we're going to pin this inside of it. It just got thicker, didn't it? Okay, and then same thing there. So basically, that's what you're doing. So let's pin this seam right here to here. Where did it go? I lost it. There it is. Just like that. Don't poke yourself. All right. So now, if you shove it in there like that, go ahead, pin all the way around, and sew it, just like we just did. Now this way, if you turn it and you sew it like this, you'll be able to sew just inside that way of this stitching line right here. You want to sew just there. That way you won't see the stitching on the other side. All right, I'm going to get that pinned and sewn. All right, all pinned. Put it under there, be careful. And remember what I said, sew just to the left of where of that stitching line that you already have. See, I got smart, pulled the pin out. And when I say just to the left, I mean a hair to the left. Did it again. I don't think I've ever hit so many pins. And you can feel the brim inside, okay? Don't let it be folded up and stitch it with a fold in it. You can kind of press it flat. Now you can stitch right on that line. More power to ya. Whoop. By the way, when you hit a pin, change your needle. If you hit a pin and then you hear tick, 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 tick when you're sewing, change your needle, you jacked it up. There was a hidden pin right there. Almost. Almost. And here I am where I started. Back stitch. And there you go. All right, let's go over to the cutting table. Okay, now let's look at the inside. Find the back where you did that extra top stitching, or not top stitching, reinforcement stitching. And Melanie didn't remember where, ooh, a pin. I didn't remember where I did that. I think it's over here. Yes, it is. Okay. Pull your lining up, and I want you to take a seam ripper, and I want you to open that up. It'll be easy to slip stitch shut because you've already pressed it, and all you got to do is ladder stitch it shut. Now you can see why, you're about to see why I had you reinforce it so good. Okay, there's your birthing hole. All right, now, don't grab it from the front and pull it. You need to find the brim, reach in, come to the back. Grab the back of the brim. That will be the easiest way to do it. Start pulling it inside out. You don't want to get a big knot of brim in there is what I'm trying to say, or you'll never get it through the hole. Just start pulling it. Careful. Kind of push it. You're giving birth to a bucket hat. There's your hole. You can slip stitch that shut. Got confetti everywhere here. Turn it this way. Looks nice, yeah? Look at that. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do, and you don't have to do this either, but I do it, I think it looks really good. So you're gonna top stitch this and that. So what you'll do is you'll pull it nice and tight from one side and pull it from the other side, and you're gonna stitch on the band all the way around there. Okay, but I think what we'll do is I'm gonna put this aside for a moment, and we've got to do the ponytail hole. So let's switch to the other hat. Okay, this one has to go together just a little bit different because these are attached. We cannot do it the way we did the other one. So what I want you to do is on the lining side, right here where your ponytail opening is, I want you to measure 3 inches. And it doesn't have to be perfect. 3 inches works. Okay, and you're gonna put a pin right there. Then turn it and do the same with this side. 3 inches, 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's backwards, but it's 3 inches. And a pin right there. Okay. Turn it back around, and what we want to do is we're going to sew the brim to the outside part of the hat. So find the back. This is the back. There's the front, and pin it here. Let me make sure I'm in the camera. I think I am. I am. Beautiful. It's kind of hard. Sometimes I'm teaching away and filming, and then I go and look at it and realize that I wasn't even anywhere in the camera. That's why lots of times when I do things, you see tape on my board. That's why, because I have to stay in between the tape and I know I'm on camera if I do that. So put it in here just like that. And I want you to match this up with that. See that? And scoot it over just a tad, just like that. Pin it right there. It's a little harder to pin Woven Fuse 2 than Woven Fuse Original. Do the same thing over here. Like this. I told you this was not going to be easy, didn't I? Pin it right there. I got the shakes today. Okay, now tuck this in. And what I want you to do is pin it just like we pinned the other one. And then you're going to sew from there all the way around. Okay, I'm going to get that pinned and we'll go to the sewing machine. All right, let's sew the brim onto this side. And watch out for pins again, and keep this out of the way. Keep the other part of the lining part out of the way. You're gonna have to smash it a little bit to get it to fit, but you can do it. All right, so put it under, and I just want to make sure I get it in the right place. Perfect. Take that out and sew it at 1/2 inch. A little more difficult. It's a little stiffer. However, it'll have better structure than the other hat. See what happens when you hit a pin? Don't do that. Don't do what I do. Take the pin out. My husband's gonna say, "Where'd you get all those scratches?" Oh, fighting with hats. Maneuver it so that you can get the best possible seam you can get. And don't scratch your machine. I told you this was challenging, right? Right about now, you're all saying, what in the heck did I sign up for? We're almost there, though. All right, now you can kind of see where we're going here. This comes right up to that, right where you pinned it. You want to stitch right into that corner. You don't want any raw edge showing. I better fix that or I'm going to have a fold and then I won't be happy. Look at that. Here we go. Right into it. Don't go over it. Whoops. Don't go over it, okay? Right up to it and stop. Just like that. Okay? Back to the cutting table. Okay, here we are. Now what are we going to do, Melanie? Well, you're going to turn it this way. Can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. Let's see if I can remember how this goes. So now we have to tuck this in to here, like this. And you'll see why I made you measure 3 inches, because we can't sew the whole thing like we did that other hat because of that. So what we're going to do is go back to the front here. Let's put the front to the front. Actually, is it the back? Yes, the front. Line them up. Keep in mind when you're pinning, you don't have to pin all the way through and back. Just pin it to the top layer. Be done. But you have to hit it. You have to actually hit the top layer. Harder to pin through. Believe me, this is the hardest part of the hat. Okay. So remember where I put that pin? At 3 inches? That's as far as we're going to sew. So what we do, okay, just like that. Pin. Just up to that 3-inch mark, because you really can't sew any further without causing yourself severe anxiety and frustration. I told everybody this was going to be easy, didn't I? Oh, we want an easy project. Okay, come back this way. Do the same thing on this side. Pin it. Push that brim down in there. And there's our 3-incher. Make sure you don't have the brim folded up. My brim's folded a little bit right there. Just pull it down. Unwieldy thing. There's my 3-inch pin. Straighten it all out good. Okay, so from here to there, okay, headed to the sewing machine. Once again, stitch to that side, the left side of the previous stitching line, okay? And back stitch here, okay? Because you're gonna be birthing this hat. Just do it carefully here. Just stitch slowly. There we go. Straightened it out a little bit. Now it's probably not going to be perfect, but it'll be fine once you get it all done. You won't even notice that maybe you went a little crooked. This part is really hard to sew. It just is. Straighten it out. I feel it right there. Almost there. You know, I like clips, but I just think that sometimes clips just don't hold as well as pins. They just don't. Okay, here's my last pin. This was where my 3 inches was. All right, let's turn this baby. Okay, now where's my lining? Right there. You can't turn it any other way. Don't try to turn it that way, it will not work. Turn it this way. And get your seam ripper. Open it up. Like that. Okay, and find the back of the brim. That way you're pulling it straight through. I got it. And just start working your way. Fold it in half if you have to. Try to be as careful as you can so that you don't rip any stitches. This one's harder to turn because it's got different interfacing in it. Just do a little at a time. Manipulate it till you can get it turned inside out. Okay, now, looks great from the outside. Looks pretty good, right? But, look over here. That's okay, because you're just gonna fold this up like this. This is gonna fold into that. You have to do a little manipulating, and you may have to trim away a little bit in order to get this to work right, because it has to go like that. And then you fold this down to 1/2 inch like that. Now, if you're a smarty, you can probably just, when you're top stitching, you can just top stitch right over that. Pin, actually, kind of pull it straight so that you make sure you've got it folded under right. Pin it. See, we still got a little bit to go, but it's right there. Now go over here. Do the same thing on this side. Push that in. Fold this over. Just like that. Might be a better view here. Harder to pin that way though. I'm going to poke my finger right on camera. Okay. Smooth it out. Just like that. Oops. Okay, so now if you're not going to top stitch around this, around this part right here, wasn't sure if you saw that, you can hand stitch that shut and then you're done as soon as you hand stitch the opening shut right there. However you'd like to do it. I am going to do it the hard way and stitch around it. So when I top stitch around this, I'm going to start right there. I'm going to go around, around, all the way around, up here, up there, and over there. And I'm going to stitch across that a little bit. Now make sure that you got the inside as perfect as you want it. It's not easy, just saying. Where's my pedal? It traveled away from me. Okay. I'm going to double check again what it looks like underneath. It's not going to be perfect. That's the inside of my hat, and I am not as particular about the inside. Well, I'm probably lying. I kind of am. Be very careful here, okay? I suggest that you go really slow. Pull out those pins as you go. Push this up. Push it this way. And push that way. Where's my pin? There it is. I'm just going to hold it. Now, if you are making this reversible, I've made all mine reversible, but I'm never going to turn them the other way. I just like them with a different color on the inside. Now, these are my 4th and 5th hats, and I've actually done them a little faster as I learned what to do and what not to do, and wrote it down so I could tell all of you. Now the more you pull both sides, the better it's going to look. Might be thick for some machines. dare you to make a ponytail opening hat. I challenge you to do it. Okay, almost. Don't scratch your machine. Where are my pins? There's one. And here's one. I've got one more pin. It's right there. Okay, I'm gonna go one, well, almost, one more. There. Now I'm gonna go this way. It's kind of hard to see because this is sticking up here. And I'm gonna stitch around the ponytail hole. Come on. Those of you that make bags a lot probably won't struggle as much because you're used to it, fighting with things. Okay, home stretch. Ooh. Don't let it get stuck on the stuff on your machine. And go here, over to the brim side, turn it. Now remember where you folded that under and the brim was open right there? Close it. I don't think it, I think I skipped a stitch. There we go. And to there, to there, to there. Back up and back stitch that. Okay. Let's go look at it. Okay, here we go. Let's make it look like a hat. Look at that. Ponytail opening. Got to trim my threads yet, but I'll do that when I sew the rest of it together. Just kind of push it around, make it look good. Make sure everything fits right. Got to kind of mold it. Nice. Came out good. Okay, all we need to do is whip stitch the openings on both the hats and they're finished. Okay, while I love this and I think it's very beautiful, I need a ponytail opening. And here it is. Okay, we got it. Not super easy to do, but it looks great when it's done and you can say you did it. Okay? All right, thanks for joining our sew along and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great day.